voiceover on this video because in case you didn't know, roofing is pretty boring. And I'm gonna speed this video layer, and then there are the wood shingles underneath, which I believe are the original shingles on the roof. So first corner. Now at this point, we weren't sure whether or not we were going to do the entire roof because it was actually pretty late in the day. By the time we got everything set up and everything going, it was kind of going slow at first, but I think as the day went on, we kind of picked up the pace and we really got some stuff done. So we used the air nailer to hold the plywood down to the subroof. A couple of them were broken, but we made do. We didn't really spend a whole lot of time fixing them. As long as the plywood stayed in place, we called it good. So at this point, we had decided to just remove the whole roof, go all the way across, do it all in one shot, and then get it over with. And it is pretty difficult pulling all of those shingles off because there are just so many nails. And that's actually one of the good things about the spades that we're using is that they actually have points on them where you can shove them underneath and they work pretty well. So now we're going to start speeding some things along, hurrying up the removal of the shingles on the roof. It makes a huge mess. I still need to take the magnet out and pick up all the nails. So there we got the subroof completely exposed. Brittany showed up. She's helping us. Believe it or not, Brittany actually comes from a roofing family. Her dad does a lot of roofing himself. So she has a lot of experience, and she works for him all the time. She has way more experience roofing than probably any of us. So now they're going ahead and laying down the rest of the plywood there. A couple times we just lifted the plywood up, and then we measured up after we set the plywood in place. And that tended to work quite a bit better than trying to measure everything. Because when we measured up on the roof, and then when we measured the plywood on the ground, they were not always perfectly fitting. So now Dad and I are pushing that plywood up to Travis. He's going to lay it down. And the part that I did not show because, well, my camera battery died at this point, so I had to recharge it. But he took the scale saw up and he cut off the corner of it to match the roof. And it works so much better on this side compared to when we measured it on the far side. Plywood around the pipe for the septic. So now we're getting back into the later part of the day. We were racing because they were calling for rain earlier on in the day, but as the day went on, they kept pushing it back, which worked in our favor. So Brittany went ahead and put the drip edge on, which is that layer of shingles along the bottom of the roof. Now what we're doing is we're laying out the tar paper over the plywood. And what the tar paper does is basically makes the shingles stick together, and it provides another kind of water-resistant layer to keep the water from going underneath. So cut a spot for the septic pipe. Brittany's nailing them down. And we kind of let just Brittany take over at this point because being that she comes from a roofing family, she tends to be a little bit more picky than any of us. So we kind of just let her take over and do her thing. But thankfully, putting the shingles on is the easiest part. It really goes by a lot faster once you have all the shingles pulled off. I would definitely say that pulling all those shingles off took probably at least half the day, and cutting the plywood probably took another 25%, and then shingling was probably another 25%. So at this point, we were kind of just aiming to get as much on as we could before the rain came in because we were pretty convinced that it was going to rain before we could complete everything or the sun would go down, which did happen. But we did manage to get a majority of the roof put on. You can see she's starting at the bottom and she's just working up, and then she's going to go across. Now, on the ridges, I actually took a pair of snips and I cut the shingles down along that ridge line. So what that allowed is that it allows the ridge caps to sit over top of that, and that way the roof is nice and even, and there's really not any shingles that are being overlaid at all. But all in all, I mean, roofing, putting shingles on really isn't that difficult of a job. It's mostly just getting everything put together and then getting it done in a reasonable amount of time. If you have more people, it's a lot easier. Also, say no to crack, folks. At this point, I wasn't really paying much attention to the camera, but I was kind of focusing on cutting those ridgeline shingles off. Brittany's just still working up. Thankfully, we got all the hay made by this point. We still left the bale carrier sit out in the field that night when we got done. A big thing that you got to do, too, after you're done shingling is that you got to make sure that everything is tarred. Now, the flashing that's along the roof, we basically took like 3 large bottles of tar and just went along the whole roof. I know that I do have a bit of a hornet problem, a bit of a wasp problem on this side of the house, which you can probably tell by the shingles that are on the side. But, yeah, we're just kind of working on doing the house a little bit at a time. Travis is now kneeling down the flashing after he put some tar underneath. I'm going to go through later on, in between, which was right there, and I tarred the rest of it. Well, it looks like we got that roof on just in time. We got a ton of rain last night, and it is definitely flooding. It was way worse this morning, but like back there in a town just up from here, it was pretty bad, but it looks like it's starting to go down now. Hopefully we don't get too much more rain. They are calling for more as the week progresses, so we'll just have to wait and see. Well, we got the roof all put on. Now I've got a mess to clean up, but fortunately we got a ton of rain last night and it didn't leak, so that's good. Probably gonna go along the edge and paint over the wood and everything that's supposed to be trim, and then we should be pretty well set. This house is pretty old. It's probably pushing 100 years now. I really don't know the true age of it. I think it was built somewhere between 1910 and 1935. I want to say it was closer to 1935 in that range, but it's tough to say. I think the oldest aerial picture that we have of it was from 1935. So I gotta call the dish man and tell him that a freak storm came through and knocked the dish off. Oh no. Anyway, with that, I'll let you all go. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something. Basically what I didn't cover last was doing the ridge caps. Brittany and I were just kind of focusing on getting those done. But basically there's separate ridge caps. They're ridge shingles that you buy and you place them over just like you did with the regular shingles, and you go all the way up to the roof until you're far enough up that all of the nails are covered by the flashing on the siding. So just another step towards home renovation, I guess. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, all how farms work, and I'll see you next time.